Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm super excited to show you this palette because I feel like it's such a great release. This is the new eyeshadow palette by ColourPop. It is based on a Netflix show called Stranger Things. Presentation of this palette is absolutely beautiful. The outer packaging cover looks like an old TV with a VCR and a tape. And then in the back you have descriptions of the shades. And then on the inside you have the actual eyeshadow palette, and the cover is pretty cool as well. You see these sort of very otherworldly vines, kind of branches. And then ColourPop X Stranger Things is written in this really cool metallic red shade. You can feel texture on the cover. And then you have the kids riding on their bikes in a really gloomy woods. And on the back you have all the shade names and the layout, and it looks like as if the shades are being peeled off. I feel like the vibe of the palette fits with the show very well. They did a really good job with this presentation. So on the inside of the palette you have 7 matte shades. You have this one really vibrant yellow shade, and then you have 2 light matte shades, a pink one leaning purple, and then this cream one. And then you have a mid-tone, kind of earthy, brown, creamish colored shade. And then you have darker matte shades, this deep dark red, this gray one, and a black one. And then this red shade is more like a very satiny shade. It's not metallic, it's not lustrous, but it's also not matte. And in total there are 16, so half of the palette is pretty much matte. And the other half, out of those 8 shades, you have 2 glitter shades. And I've been really enjoying the ColourPop glitter shades because they are tacky, so you don't need glitter glue, and they look very shifty and vibrant and lustrous on your eyes. Then you have a really vibrant orange shimmer shade. You have this really pretty olive green shade. And then the rest of the shimmer shades here are really like grungy and gray. And then you have one super light metallic gray silver shade right here. So a pretty interesting mix of shades with textures and colors. I have 4 looks for you guys, including the one that is on my eye right now, and that will be the last one that I show you. And I'm also gonna have swatches, so without further ado, let's get into this palette. Let me show you all the looks and then give you my final thoughts. I'm super excited to try out this palette because the last palette that I tried from ColourPop, the After Hours palette, I really liked it. And with that one I did 4 looks, and I will leave the link for that video down below in the description. And I think I'm also going to try to do lots and lots of looks with this palette. So first I'm going to start with the lightest shade that I want for this look. I want something nice and bright, so I'm going to go in with this shade called 11. It's this pink shade. I have been enjoying doing eyeshadow looks so much. I've been doing them in the morning, and one of the therapists had said that doing something creative in the morning can really be motivating and set you up for the rest of the day. I'm just gonna bring you guys a little bit closer. I'm gonna open my eyes and focus more on the brow bone area. And I'm gonna go in with this shade right here called D&D. I only watched 1 season of Stranger Things, and I think I was able to watch it because I watched it with family. I watched it with my brother and his family, and by myself, it's not my type of show. I like more like crime suspense shows, so I then ended up not watching the rest of the seasons. But I did enjoy the first season because I watched it with my family. Right, so this one is a little more pigmented than the shade called 11, and this is called D&D. I'm just gonna put it and pack it into my crease. So far, the matte shades are so nice. Very easy to apply, not patchy, looks really good. Now let's switch gears and I'm going to go into this gray shade right here. This one is called The Gate. I remember absolutely nothing about Stranger Things. The only thing I think happened was a kid went missing. And then this girl showed up with special powers. I think her name was 11. All right, let's talk about this gray shade. It seems to be going on pretty fine. It's nice and pigmented. I think this is gonna work out really well in the outer part of my eye. And hopefully it looks good with the blue shimmer shade that I'm gonna use with it. Okay, now I am so scared to use this blue shade here because the swatch came out looking so bad and patchy. This shade is called the Upside Down. I hope it looks okay. So I'm gonna try to use a little bit at a time. Just tapping in a little bit. And just pressing it. Alright, it's working. Yay! You know what? I did realize that with the After Hours palette too, because I was getting a lot of fallout with these glittery shades. And I realized that if I use less product, I'm still getting the lustrousness of it without getting the fallout. That's pretty. And I like the ColourPop glittery shades because they're tacky. I don't need to use glue. I've never used glue in my life on my eyes and I never ever want to. Oh, that's pretty. I think this is really lustrous. I mean, this looks really pretty. Maybe like the satiny shades are not as lustrous, but this shade is beautiful and I love the color. Oh, that's pretty. And if you start to build it up a little bit more, it starts to turn kind of like a foily shade. I really like it. And next I'm gonna go into this sort of, it looks grayish blue. It's called Hungry for Blood. I'm gonna use a little bit. Oh, that's a lot. Okay, so this one is not a glitter shade. Oh, I don't know if this was the right shade to use with this. This shade is very like cool tone gray, but I feel like this one does have some like grunginess to it, so it is slightly warm. So I don't know, this might be a little too much contrast. But this is literally the only like light shade in this palette, and I do like my inner corner to be light, or the inner part of my eye to be light. So we're just gonna have to work with this. We're just gonna make this work. I need to put more of the matte shade. It moved around a little bit from the crease. And I want to pack it in here because it did move around. I just want to blend this part out where the shimmer is touching the matte shade. The matte shade's looking a little patchy. I guess what can happen with sometimes with shadows is that when you apply them, they look really good, but as your eye moves, the shadows start to move around and then they start to look patchy. So I do want to pack on the matte shade a little more. But I feel like I need more shimmer here. I'm not liking the blend here between the matte shade and the shimmer shade. With a damp brush and try to pack on this gray shade. It's weird. It's the place where I am putting the shimmer shade is looking darker there. I'm still getting this line here. I'm gonna go in with this blue sort of satiny shimmer right here. I'm actually gonna put it right here. Now for my lower lash line, I'm gonna go in with this shade called Demogorgon. Red shade. I'm gonna bring a little bit of black just in the outer part of the lower lash line. Let's use 11 in the inner corner. It looked really pretty when I applied it, but I feel like it moves around a little bit. So I don't like this. I feel like this area does look a little patchy. I almost want to take a black shade and cover that up, but I'm gonna put a little bit of a black matte in here because it's just, I'm not liking this outer part of my eye here. But I'm gonna damp my brush, I'm gonna wet it, and hopefully that fixes everything because it will give me enough pigment for this outer part of the eye. And I'm gonna go back into that very dark brown, dark blue shimmer. Tap that back in to try to blend this part of the eye. I think I'm gonna use my finger. This part right here. Okay. Yeah, I need to stop. For this side, let's try to do something with this very vibrant red. And maybe we can do something with that yellow. I'm gonna take this yellow shade right here. It's called Waffle Thief. Now I'm gonna take that red shade called Hawkins. We're gonna put it in the inner part. And we're gonna put it in the outer part. I feel like this red, even though it is looking like a shimmer, it would work better as just like a matte situation. We're gonna bring the red also into the crease a little bit. I'm gonna go in with this like glitter here called 1983. Tap that in the middle. I feel like both of these looks are so different from each other, which is something you wouldn't really think that you could get from this palette. The palette has a very grungy vibe. So beautiful. I do feel like I need to bring the yellow a full circle inwards. It's kind of stopping right there. So I want to bring it in more, like actually around the full eye. And then for my lower lash line, I don't know. Maybe I'll go in with this rusty orangey shade here. It's called Gone Missing. Should I do something in the outer corner? Like maybe this Demogorgon shade, this one right here, or I can do something with a black shade. And I obviously have decided to go in with the black shade. I don't even know what I'm doing with it. I'm starting to feel like this was a bad idea. I'm sorry, my memory card was full, so I had to finish up the look completely off camera, but here is the finished look. I'm loving these blue, teal, gray colors and how they're just kind of like working together. I think it's such a beautiful, unique color. And this side is also pretty, but I feel like these colors are a little bit more basic. They're red, so they're not as attractive for me. But overall, both looks came out pretty nice. I did go back in with a damp brush to put that shimmer rusty shade in my lower lash line here. And surprisingly, the glitter shade that I used on the top of my lid, I was able to use it for my inner corner. I just used this e.l.f. brush. It's called Small Precision. And this brush, it's very small, it's flat, and I was able to use this to kind of pack on that glitter in the inner corner. So far, my only complaint is that the darker matte shades are not fun to use. But I do want to continue playing around with the palette, create some more looks for you, feel out the palette a little bit more. All right, for this look, I'm gonna keep it super simple because I need to get ready fast. So for this look, I'm gonna use this matte shade right here, this sort of beige mid-tone brown shade, and these two shades right here. All right, so I'm gonna go in with this deep dark red shade into the crease. Even though it's a dark shade, because I realized that a lot of these dark shades don't have much pigment, I feel like I can kind of use it as a mid-tone shade into the crease. I'm actually gonna go with this Chief of Police shade up here at the top. And I'm gonna bring that into the inner part of my eye. So in the inner part of the eye, I'm gonna use this shade. It's called D&D, and I'm just gonna use my finger. Alt Dimension right here. It's not super, you know, lustrous. It's just nice and smooth and satiny. Shade called Alien Vines. It's right on top of it. I'm just kind of ready to give up on applying any of these matte shades into the outer corner. So I'm just gonna use a shimmer shade. Red shade into the lower lash line. I don't know, should I go for the black or no? But I feel like it really needs that sort of extra depth in the outer corner. Oh my god. All right, let's do this. All right, something in just a little bit into the crease. All right, here's a finished look. I mean, looking at the makeup look, it doesn't really look like I used any shimmers. So I do agree with this other creator that some of these satiny shimmers are not that lustrous. Here is a closer look. Besides the shimmer shades, the ones that I used in this look being not that lustrous, I think the look looks nice. I mean, it's has that grungy vibe, and I think that works well with the theme. So not necessarily complaining about this look. I do like the look itself. Right, so the last look that I did, at that time I felt like it did look really nice, but later on it started to look a little patchy, and I feel like it didn't really wear well. So I want to try to do a nice, beautiful, more vibrant look this time. So this shade over here called Hungry for Blood, this one is looking pretty, so I do want to do something with that. It's a really pretty gray, satiny, metallic shade. So, and it looks pretty lustrous. So I want to create a look with this. I have another gray in this palette called The Gate. So maybe I can pair it with that and just create a really nice gray look. And I do also have a pink in this palette. It's called 11. So if you look at these colors together, I think they look really pretty. Pink and gray are one of my favorite combinations. Any other shimmer shade that's in here, it actually ends up looking darker on the eye than this gray shade. So the only shimmer that I can pair with this gray matte is this light silver shade, or maybe this glitter shade up here. But I feel like I already did that combination. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna keep this look pretty simple and just appreciate the beauty of this silver shade called Hungry for Blood. Then to start off the look, I'm gonna take this pink matte shade and I'm gonna apply it in my crease area, but I'm gonna focus more on the brow bone. I think a color that is this sort of light shade, it's not really gonna be a crease shade, but it can be a really beautiful brow bone shade, but I don't want it to be too much into the brow bone. So next I'm going in with the gray matte shade called The Gate. And I'm gonna kind of cover about 1/3 of the eye. Let's now take that silver gray shade called Hungry for Blood, going from the center all the way into the inner corner. Such a beautiful, reflective, metallic shade. So it's not glittery, it's just really smooth and metallic. For my lower lash line, I'm going to go into this dark, deep red shade called Demogorgon. This is like a good brush, I guess, if you wanted to create like a liner look. So, and I'm going to bring in a little bit of black also, right at the outer corner. And just kind of blending the black into the red. This is looking really pretty. I'm really loving this metallic shade. So I'm going to finish up the other eye. I'm going to put liner and mascara and I'll be right back. Alright, here is a finished look. This is exactly what I wanted. I wanted something vibrant. Metallic shade worked out really well. I put a liner here. At first I used a blue liner, but then I realized that the gray is not blue leaning, so then I tried to go over the blue liner with a black liner, so I don't know what color you're actually seeing. But then I also took the gray metallic shade. I used a flat brush to then also create like a liner look right underneath the black wing. And I think that looks really cool. Here's a closer look at the eyes. I love how smooth and beautiful the silver gray shade is. Alright, so here are the swatches, and you can see a pretty significant difference between this side that's like so vibrant with the yellow and the red, and then this side, which is just so grungy and dark, and I feel like it's just too much of a contrast, and I feel like the shades, some of them just don't work well together, and it just makes the color story not all that cohesive. My final thoughts on this palette is it's just a lot of mixed feelings. I feel like this yellow and red shade here don't really tie in with the rest of the color story. So I don't know, maybe they're there just because they represent the theme of the show with the waffle. I've only seen one season, so I don't remember much of it, so I can't speak about the show, but I guess maybe they put these shades here just to fit the theme of the show. But overall, as a palette, the yellow, the red, and this rusty orange shimmer don't really fit in. It is a bit of a strange color story. Maybe they took Stranger Things to heart a little too much. But out of all the looks, I really appreciated the glitter shades, and I think this silver gray shade, which is from the look that I have on my eye, I feel like this one is so beautiful. These gray shimmer shades, they were just not that impressive. I feel like they could have done a lot more with this palette when it comes to the texture of the shades. The texture and the colors even are just not that impressive. But the palette packaging is. Now, so out of the 16 pans, I only really like 4 or 5 shades. That's the 2 shimmer shades, this gray silver metallic shade, and even though I didn't use this olive shimmer shade here, I feel like that's a really pretty shade. But other than that, nothing else is really pulling me in color-wise or texture-wise. So I just want to set the expectations that when it comes to the color story and creating looks with this palette and the colors that are in this palette and the textures in this palette, it's not gonna blow you away. But when it comes to the presentation as a collector's item, I think they did an amazing job. But it would have been so wonderful if what's inside the palette, the actual shades, were done just as well as the palette itself. I wish they had also put just as much thought in the shades as they did in the outer packaging, and had they done that, this, I feel like, palette could have gone down in history, ColourPop history that is. But I do have to say I really like these glitter shades in these ColourPop palettes. The other palette I have is After Hours. If I continue to review more ColourPop palettes, I feel like I'm gonna keep them all on one side and you know, pop into them just for those shimmer glittery shades. But I would love to see more of these metallic shades similar to the silver one here. I would love to see more of this formula in future ColourPop palettes. I wanted to give you guys a lot of looks so that we could really like deep dive into this palette, so you know ahead of time what you're getting yourself into before you spend your money. So I hope that this video was helpful for you. If it is, make sure you hit that like button, and I will leave a link down below if you are going to purchase this palette, and it'll probably be an affiliate link and I will make a small commission, so I will appreciate it very much if you use the link down below to help support my channel. Thank you. Bye.